We are going around the world and beyond. I'm Jack Harte, and I will avoid talking about viruses and pandemonium because there are many others who do it much better than do I, some of whom are friends and acquaintances. And I thought maybe we'd talk about some different things for a minute or two. And our first stop is millions and millions of years ago. Science Daily and other periodicals are reporting that the ancestor of all ancestors may have been uncovered in Australia. The Icaria verrutia is considered to have been the first animal to have distinct back and front, to have an opening at either end and connected by a gut. It is considered to be the predecessor to all animal life today, from dinosaurs and fish and birds and chickens and monkeys and apes and doggies and kitties and even human beings. It is believed that we all evolved from this Icaria verrutia. E. verrutia is believed to have been about the size of a grain of rice, and it lived 555 million years ago. Now, put that in perspective. The Earth is believed to be about 4.5 billion years old, 4,500,000,000 years old. The first single-celled or unicellular life is believed to have appeared, about 3,500,000,000 years ago. Dinosaurs didn't show up until 250 million years ago, and they died out 65 million years ago, and then there was the rise of mammals and so forth. Eventually, what we call Homo sapiens, wise man, as Carl Linnaeus named us back in the 1750s, came about 300,000 years ago. Our earliest ancestor is believed to have existed 555 million years ago, and that arrived on an Earth that was already 4 billion years old. So you put that in perspective, but the interesting thing is that many of us still have distinct backs and fronts. It is Pecan Day all over this country, not to be confused with National Pecan Day, by the way, which occurs in April. Why there are two, I'm not entirely sure. Some people prefer the April Pecan Day. I prefer Pecan Day in March. There's less going on. I can focus more on the pecan itself. Some people are double dippers, and they'll go to both. Now, a pecan is not actually a nut. A pecan is known as a drupe, which is a type of fruit that has a single seed, large seed, surrounded by a husk. The reason why we call it a nut is because we would prefer to say nut than drupe. Right? Now, the word pecan itself comes from the Algonquins. When the Europeans started to come here, the pecans were mostly grown in around the Mississippi Valley, what's now Texas and Mexico and so forth. The Algonquins called it a pecan because that was their word for nut that needed to be cracked open with a stone. And, of course, pecan is much more efficient to say. That pecan also referred to walnuts and other nuts that could be crushed with a stone. So, it is National Pecan Day. Hope you enjoy it. Get out there and bake a pie. I like to toss some pecans in a pan with some butter and sugar and just a pinch of salt. Toss them around for a while. Let them cool off a little bit. Delicious, snacking good. Pecan Day. Go nuts. Now, it was on March 26, 1886, that George Eastman and his fledgling Eastman Company, which would eventually become Kodak, produced the first commercial motion picture film. It was a roll film at the time, and it didn't exist commercially at the time. A biographer recounted the day that he first introduced it. His business partners came into his investors came into Mr. Eastman's laboratory, and Mr. Eastman told them, he says, look at this commercially produced commercial motion picture film. This is fantastic. And, of course, his investors asked him, they said, George, what is a commercially produced motion picture? What's a motion picture commercially produced one way or another? He said, if you live long enough, you're going to find out. You're going to love it. It's going to be it's going to be fantastic. If you don't love it, then your children are going to love it. It's going to be a big thing. And that was the beginning of the commercial motion picture industry as we know it today. And that has been our trip around the world and beyond. Now, here's the thing. We are in a tough time, a time that is not like any other that we've encountered before. Many of us are locked up in our houses or restricted from our movements and so forth and so on. We have experienced tough times before. Humanity has, at any rate. Maybe many people today, young people and so forth, haven't seen crazy tough times. Many older people have. And so we can get through it. It's going to really stink for a little stretch of time, but we'll get through it. But here's the thing. Take the time. Do stuff with it. You probably talked for years about, oh, if I only had the time, I'd do this. I'd paint the picture. I'd fix the ceiling. I'd do this. Take the time now. You have it. So just relax. Enjoy the time. I'm Jack Harte. We've been around the world and beyond. I'll see you again.